So I don't know. It's always been lost on me how accurate a prism social media is when it comes to understanding public sentiment about certain things. But a lot of people seem to think that Link NYC kiosks are paid for by taxpayers. And they're not, at least for the most part. I mean, the city administers the program, and you could argue that the cost of doing so is a taxpayer expense, but it's relatively negligible. But where that sentiment of why are we paying for this, why are taxpayers on the hook for this stuff, that sentiment could better be directed at these things, these old red emergency call boxes. There are thousands of them, and most of them don't work, and they come in a variety of styles. But you should see one every couple of blocks, every 2 or 3 blocks, as well as on highways and bridges. The city cannot get rid of these on account of a federal judge that ruled that the city had not provided enough evidence to say that there was an adequate alternative. And specifically, it was with regard to the ability for mute people and people with speech disorders to report emergencies. There had been no suitable alternative provided to what they call the tapping method, which is what those folks who are not able to speak, that's one of the ways that they're able to communicate through devices like this one. Not this one in particular, but other styles of call box. So this one is limited to reporting fire to the fire department, but others give you the option of also contacting the police. But there are so many of these things that cost millions of dollars a year for the city to maintain and take care of, and most of them probably don't work. A lot of them are gutted out. But this is what we're paying for. We're not paying for Link NYC, we're paying for this. Once in a while you'll find that these things get arted up, and this isn't really even the most colorful example, and I wouldn't know who did this, but this isn't the standard issue paint job that these things are supposed to get. It's kind of cool to see, I think. So the way these things are supposed to work is you pull the lever, the fire department gets alerted, and this red LED light up here starts blinking. And I've never seen this in action. I'll bet nobody has, but that's how it's supposed to work. I've heard 2 explanations for why the light starts blinking. One doesn't really make sense to me now that I think about it, but I'll say it anyway. It was supposed to be there for firefighters, whoever's driving the fire truck. It was supposed to be blinking as a visual cue for the truck driver to know where the call box was located, where it was activated. That doesn't really make sense to me. What I think it is those lights are there as a visual guidepost for a citizen to know where to find a call box when there's an emergency. So if there's a fire or something, then citizens are supposed to know to look for the red light. And if it really does start blinking, I think that's probably just a form of confirmation to the person who pulled the lever, confirmation that that the call actually went through. The red light replaced, I don't know if you can see this, and if it's getting swallowed by the tree branches and stuff, but the red LED light replaced, in function at least, the incandescent bulb that was underneath that yellow cover. And this whole program got some fresh scrutiny when that occurred. That's probably like 12 years ago now, maybe longer. The whole call box program got some fresh scrutiny when those LED lights were put in, because it just brought fresh attention to what an expensive waste of money these things are, that the only people that really use them are high school kids who pull the handle to send false alarms, because false alarms are a lot of fun, right? But the LED lights themselves are pretty expensive, but of course the argument is that they're so much more energy efficient that they save money over time, and that's how the LED thing settled down. But there are critics out there of these call boxes, but they're not very vocal, and whenever these voices rise up, it just never seems to gain any traction. Now, I said this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. When I say, this is what we're paying for those call boxes. We're not paying for Link NYC, and that's not 100% true. There are taxpayer-paid administrative expenses associated with it. For one thing, in the form of a person, the job title is franchise inspector, and it's that person's job to go all around town inspecting Link NYC kiosks to make sure they work. And they also are hired to inspect the payphones, and that's like a dream job for me. And I applied for it, but they completely ignored me. So I don't know who does that or how much they get paid, but what the heck, it's an honest job, right? I mean, you could complain about how unnecessary Link NYC is and all the needless expense, but the lion's share of the money for that program comes from private equity among entities, including among the other entities is Alphabet, a company that owns Google. And on account of that, a lot of people are suspicious of the whole Link NYC program as a surveillance tracking mechanism, but there's been nothing surfaced to prove that anything of the kind is actually happening with those kiosks, anything in terms of surveillance or tracking you or following you around with ads. And one other thing about the red LED light and the sometimes accompanying no longer used incandescent bulb under the orange cone. It's not always directly over or next to the call box. Sometimes, like this one, it's across the street. But I'll be interested to see if I can get to the bottom of the connection between these boxes and those lights. Looks like somebody pulled this one. Wow.